Listen, there is something you really need to hear today, and honestly, it might just ruin the way you see yourself. You see, you're not actually as hard to read as you think you are. Not to the people who matter anyway, and definitely not to the people who are actually paying attention. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to completely unpack the hidden architecture of human behavior, all through the lens of one of history's most provocative minds.
Think about that for a second. It's a little unsettling, isn't it? Someone out there has already noticed the exact way your voice shifts when you're bending the truth. They've heard the way you laugh just a little too hard when you're feeling invisible in a room. They've watched you frantically fill empty silences with chatter simply because sitting in stillness makes you feel totally exposed. The people who are really paying attention, they see the rehearsed identities we all project. Because true observation isn't loud. It's subtle, it's slow, and it is incredibly surgical.
And that brings us to a radical observation by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He realized something huge. Our carefully curated identities, and even the very language we use, well, they weren't created to reveal who we truly are. Not at all. They were built to help us survive, to hide, and to belong. When someone is talking to you, you're rarely ever hearing their soul. You are hearing their protection, desperately explaining why it deserves to be accepted. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The myth of hiding. Why we wear armor. We all do this, right? We project this grand illusion of a confident, impenetrable persona to the outside world. We wear our confidence like a literal suit of armor, speaking with all this rehearsed certainty. But we aren't doing this because we're inherently fake or malicious. We do it because, deep down, we are terrified of being completely real. To Nietzsche, this persona we project is what he called the mask. Now, it's important to get this. This isn't a mask of deception. In his view of the self, the mask is a psychic exoskeleton. It is an absolute biological and spiritual necessity. We grow it to protect our deeply vulnerable raw selves against the terrifying and chaotic aspects of existence. It's an adaptation for survival. It's our vital psychological armor. And this brilliantly illustrates a key distinction. You know, the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, he saw the mask as this sort of cage forced upon us by society. The whole idea that hell is other people, constantly judging us into conformity. But Nietzsche's view, fundamentally different. He believed we actively cultivate our own armor, building it from the inside out to protect our profound inner depths. We aren't just passive prisoners of some societal mask, we are the active architects of our very own survival suits. Part 2. Masks as survival armor and the heavy toll they take. But here's the catch about wearing all that armor. It's heavy, it's rigid, and eventually it leaks. No matter how carefully constructed our masks might be, they inevitably slip. And to understand exactly why these masks fracture and crack under pressure, we have to look deeper into the intense hidden war that's raging right below the surface of every single person you meet. This brings us to Nietzsche's drive theory. We love to think of ourselves as these unified, highly rational agents making perfectly logical choices. Well, Nietzsche completely shattered that idea. He saw the self as a multiplicity, a knot of savage serpents that are pretty much never at peace. Beneath your conscious awareness, your psyche is essentially a boiling cauldron of competing biological and psychological drives, and they are all desperately fighting for dominance over your behavior.
Part 3. The War of Inner Drives, Competing for Control.
So the crucial point is that every single drive inside of you, whether it's the drive for connection, the drive for safety, or the drive for status, is locked in this constant, hidden internal struggle. They're always trying to expand their own influence and master the other drives. When you start looking at people through this lens, human behavior completely stops looking like a series of logical choices. Instead, it starts looking like the temporary victories of whichever drive happens to be winning the internal war in that exact moment. Nietzsche named this underlying engine the will to power. It's the fundamental drive in all living things to extend and intensify their influence. What this means is that our behaviors, our beliefs, and yes, even our seemingly selfless moral actions are fundamentally just attempts by these inner drives to accumulate power, ensure our survival, and establish some semblance of control over our chaotic environments. Part 4. Spotting the leaks and what happens when the mask slips. Knowing this absolutely changes how we observe others. We move from theory straight into practical diagnostics. Really smart people don't read others because they have some magical psychic intuition. They read people because they know exactly how to spot the moments these inner, warring drives fracture the outer mask. They're looking for the leaks, the moments where the performance briefly breaks down. So here is the anatomy of a tell, because the body will always betray the mask. When a person's core identity or survival is truly threatened, the autonomic nervous system just takes over. You'll see a sudden, totally unnatural stillness. You'll see their pupils dilate as the body prepares for a threat. You'll hear the tone shift, a voice that suddenly rises to sound confident, but you can tell it really isn't. You'll notice delayed timing. You know, that strange, slightly too long pause before answering a question that just hit a little too close to home? Let's use this like a decoder ring for human behavior. Take the loud, incredibly confident guy who literally never stops talking. What's driving that? He is terrified of stillness. How about the perfectionist woman who is obsessed with micromanaging every tiny detail? She is at war with her own inner chaos. And the person with that really loud, aggressive morality? Yeah, that is very often disguised superiority. When you understand this, the world becomes totally transparent. You stop listening so much to the words people say, and you start seeing what their underlying patterns actually reveal. Now, spotting these contradictions isn't about playing gotcha or catching someone in a lie. It's actually about witnessing something incredibly vulnerable. Nietzsche described this as seeing the shame of a god walking around in disguise. When the performance temporarily thins out, the real person surfaces. And let me tell you, that real person is rarely polished or clean. They are raw, they are scared, and they're unfiltered, just trying to navigate a world that constantly demands they stay hidden.
Part 5. From Judgment to Empathy, a Shift in Perspective.
This is where we have to completely flip the script and shift our perspective. If we just stop right here, all we have is a clinical, cynical toolkit for spotting fakes. But Nietzsche's philosophy actually demands a lot more from us than that. It demands a deeply compassionate existential perspective. When you finally realize that everyone around you is basically just a bundle of terrified drives wearing a fancy survival suit, your entire relationship with humanity has to change. Instead of instantly reacting defensively to people, you start asking yourself this fundamental question: what pain is this protecting? When you're confronted with someone's glaring arrogance, you can reframe it as crippling insecurity. When someone lashes out at you in anger, you can see it for what it is: a protective shield desperately covering up some old, unhealed wound. Behavior isn't just a message, it's a cover. It's a heavy shield built around a very real wound. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is Nietzsche's beautiful observation that every profound spirit needs a mask. The deeper someone is, the more complex and layered their mask becomes, because profound authenticity is actually incredibly dangerous. We aren't learning to see through these masks so we can manipulate people or gain the upper hand. We're learning to see through them so we are no longer fooled by illusions. And so we stop demanding that people live inside their own lies. And that leads us to the ultimate goal here, amor fati, or the love of fate. Reading people at this profound of a level makes empathy absolutely inevitable. You start to recognize that everyone, and yes, that definitely includes yourself, is just surviving on autopilot, acting out these unfinished stories from their past. You embrace the sublime, messy tragedy of the human condition with genuine, compassionate insight. You learn to stand with people rather than judging them from above. So, why does all of this matter for you? Because clarity absolutely kills confusion. The world literally stops feeling so personal. When you realize that a friend's sudden coldness or a colleague's emotional withdrawal was never actually about you to begin with, but was entirely about their own nervous system scrambling for self-protection, your anger just dies. You don't get baited by the conflict anymore, because you recognize that their drama isn't danger. It's just someone else struggling to survive. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought and turn the mirror right back onto you. We spend so much energy, day in and day out, trying to be bulletproof. But true power? It isn't about being unreadable. It's about dropping your own survival armor, allowing yourself to be seen fully and deeply, and still being chosen. So I'll ask you this: what mask are you wearing right now? And what would actually happen if you finally dared to take it off?